Chapter 6, Lesson 3, Percent Proportion. This lesson and the next lesson all talk about solving percent problems. So we look at two different ways to solve those. Where you can see over here in the skills that we're going to use proportional relationships to solve multi-step ratio and percent problems. Now when we talk about that, today you can see it all in front of you, but it looks scary, this slide, but it is not. You're going to see in some form this stated to you every type of problem. A is P% of W, where it's just some number A is a percent of W, and they usually leave out one of them. The big thing today is we're going to make a proportion. So when we talk about proportions, that's what you see right here. That's this guy. A proportion is two equivalent ratios. But our big thing today is going to be the word of, which you're going to hear me say funny like that in class and there. Because when we look at of, what immediately comes after of goes down here on the bottom. It represents the whole, which I normally have you write in, but it's right down there below. So please put a star down there by the word whole. Whatever comes after of represents the whole amount, the total, out of everything. It's of them all. So today's keyword is going to be of. Everybody say of. Did you say it the funny, weird way like I did? Because you're welcome to. People do that in class too. So when I make you say of, you can say of, or just the normal of. So notice again, here we've got the percent as the letter P. Percent will always be out of 100, so that's our other cube. So our two things we're looking at is the word of and percent. I usually start that with the percent first. So here's that one random sentence. Does either of these numbers have a percent sign with it? No. Another key phrase, it says what percent? We don't know that, so that is the letter P out of 100. Now our next thing up then is our keyword of. Everybody say of. What comes immediately after of? The number 20. Please draw that little arrow in here since it's our notes. And then fill in the last one, 8. Now that we have that, today we're going to use our proportion. Remember, that's where we use our cross product and we take P times 20, which gives us 20p. Remember last chapter where you had to write that step out? Well, we're past that chapter. You easily could write down 8 times 100, but you can bypass that step now. We've got that in our minds, ingrained what we're doing. So now you just write down that 8 times 100 is 800, and then from there, go ahead and divide on out by 20, because we're solving for that letter P, which then means P equals 40. Now again, divide that out into your calculator, but be very careful. I use the letter P because our final answer is a percent. So what percent did we find? Well, we found 40 over 100. What is 40 over 100? 40 over 100 is 40%. That's why our answer is 40%. Set up a cross product and solve. What number is 45% of 80? Two different ways to solve this. Perhaps if we wanted to talk a lot in class, we could and find other ways. But today we're going to set up a proportion. Do any of these have a percent sign with them? It does. So the 45 is 45%, which is 45 out of 100. And now what comes immediately after the word of? Please draw in that lovely arrow to the 80 because that represents the whole. That's the whole. Everybody say whole. The entire amount. So 80 goes on the bottom. There's nothing else left. So what do we put up there? Well, when it says what number, you're welcome to put the letter A because that's how it had it at the very beginning, remember? Here it talked about A over W. Or you could just put down a number. You could just put down the letter N. Doesn't matter to me. Put whatever you'd like. Listen to your teacher. If someone else is teaching you that. 100N, and then here we've got 45 times 80. By all means, please grab a calculator. Yes, you could do that off to the side and get 3,600. That works as well. Solve for the variable, so divide both sides by 100 since the 100 is touching the n. That gives you n equals 36. Mental math, calculator approved. What number is 45% of 80? 36. No label needed. We're just working on that. Again, we can see that we're doing this because we're solving ratio percent problems, whether we call them multi-step or percent problems. And today, we're using that proportional relationship to solve. Here's just another way it can look. Almost all of the assignments going to look like this. If you get word problems, we're just trying to find a phrase like this. If there's a percent, take that guy. Even though it's 210%, it's 210 out of 100. And from there, we have the remainder of it. Up next, there's our key phrase of. What comes after of? What number? I don't know what that is, so I'm going to put the letter N. You could put W for what? You could put W for the whole, as the book said, and then the last one is 84, so that's going to go right there. And again, use that cross product. So I've got 210 times n, which is 200n. And then 84 times 100 gives me 8,400. Solve for n. Get rid of the 210 by dividing both sides by 210. And once again, mental math or calculator approved. You just type it on in, and you get your final answer of 40. Careful if you're using mental math. Don't want to have an extra zero or be missing one. Again, since it said what number, then that's it. You're down to n is 40. Do not make the 40 magically appear. Today I need to see these proportions. I need to see the cross product and the division in the answer. So that means on a quiz, this, for a point for trying, is a 5-point question on a quiz for Mr. Walls. Now, word problems, the whole thing we're looking for is these little phrases that we were given here to start with. The bar graph. In your textbook, you might have to find it to the left or to the right, above or below, but the bar graph shows the strength of tornadoes in Alabama in 2011. Here's the question we're looking for. What percent of the tornadoes were EF2s? Mr. Walls, there's no numbers with that. That's okay. Start right away. Is there a percent given here in the word problem? In the explanation, is there a percent given in the table? No. Well, then we're going to put P over 100. Then up here, what comes after the word of? The tornadoes. So we want to know the total amount of tornadoes. Did the word problem up here tell us that? Nope. Does the table's title or something tell us that? Nope. Then in order to figure that out, you guessed it, we're going to have to add them all up ourselves. So on a quiz, just put a bunch of plus signs right here. That's showing me the work that I need. And now you must carefully enter that in to your calculator and type it in. Feel free to type it in twice to make sure you've got it right. In class, I'd make sure that we all added it up, or I'd get 2 or 3 or 4 people that get the same number. On your own, type it in there twice. Make sure you add them, whether you add them forward and then back or something. Make sure that you get 145 in this example. And make sure you get the right number, because if we don't put the right number here, we're going to find out that our math, we did all the math right, but a wrong number there, the total, is going to throw everything off. Then the last thing is, were EF2s. So how many tornadoes were EF2s? Doesn't tell us up here in the word problem, so go down here in the table, in the graph, in the whatever it might be, find the EF2s. Gives you 29. And again, here we go. Ricochet off, 145p equals 29 times 100, 2,900. And then divide both sides by 145. Doing so, grab a calculator. Again, if you're going to mental math, be very careful that you carry everything correctly. Don't have an extra zero or a missing zero, so you get that 20 Here's the key thing. I use the letter P here to remind myself I'm not done. You need to answer the question, what percent of the tornadoes were EF2s? Not just 20, but 20%. Make sure you include that label so that way you don't lose a point on a quiz or a test. Again, why are we doing this? Because it's part of our standard. We want to solve multi-step ratio problems, percent problems, and today using the proportional relationship to solve. Next lesson, we're going to do the same thing, but look at a different method to solve it. Whichever one you like better, use it. But for today, I can use the percent proportion to find the parts, the wholes, or the percents. So again, percents having the label, the whole being out of everything,